Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe. It really helps the channel. Can't thank you enough for the support and hope you're all doing well. And we're here today to welcome a new blue bagger to the fraternity, Mr. Cooper Lord, Sandringham Dragons / North Melbourne VFL side. And a guy that obviously stood out in his draft year in the terms of that Sandringham were one of the best junior sides in the league. So we did have a lot of case notes from 2023. We've brushed up our 2024, having only seen 2 games when he got called out. We've now seen all of his games, so we can make a nice informed decision. And Cooper, in his 2023 year, he was playing with some absolute stars, and he was probably the workhorse of this side. You had Charlie Edwards in that side. You had Luke Lloyd. You had Riley Sanders, Cal Shadia, Archie Roberts, Levi Ashcroft, who you've heard heavily about coming up this year. He played against a lot of players as well. He played against a lot of the tough blind-breaking mids. And one thing that was a standout for Cooper was his ability to go first, second, third, fourth efforts, which is really, really important. And you've got to remember that the Courts League, and particularly in the club-type football, the focus really is on ostentatious flair. So when you look at players in this avenue, you're looking at the best of their age bracket, but it's not quite state-level football. So defensive craft kind of does stand out when you do that. And you can see here, just under the 21 touches, 3.3 marks, 5.4 tackles, 1.6 rebound 50s, 3.2 inside 50s, and 0.1 a goal a game. Not a goal-kicking mid, but you really saw him float inside and out, particularly when the game got going tough. There was a lot of times Sandringham were really tested, and this guy here could stifle the ball, get that quick little short kick out there, his handball out on the outside. And on the outside, his pressure was phenomenal. He really ran all day. And you're looking at a guy here that really suits the ethos of what Carlton have drafted in recent times. So if we look at my notes from 2023, strong in the contest, provides outlet ball and a running option. This is really important. His overlap run and his support running is really unheralded. And remember, you don't get a stat for that. So that is something that is really ingrained into the Carlton players at the moment. See Ollie Holland, see Blake Acres, and then see the midfielders. They do a lot of running. Even Harry's getting 14 Ks. So that is really strong and defensively really sound. He does the tough stuff. And going into VFL to back that up, we'll come on to that in a minute. That really says a lot about the model of the man. Going from being the thug undrafted to the thug in senior footy is a big, big jump. And he's still really showcasing that two-way running. And as you can see, strong two-way runner. This guy was incredibly fit. All of them were really at Sandy. It's like kind of a tale with them. We watched Sandringham Dragons quite a lot in our draft previews. It's a good system. So improvements, though, obviously he's undrafted. So you've got to ask yourself, why is he undrafted? There's a reason. So decision-making in close. He takes the best option that's available to him in his eyes. Maybe not, I wouldn't say, not saying he's got low footy IQ, but definitely in 2023, he could put boys under trouble, especially with the handball, particularly in close, looking for that overlap run. Sometimes look to get the ball away, not take contact, which is interesting because the rules have changed. So, I mean, that is actually a good play now. Did have that line-breaking speed, but I'd like to see him penetrate the lines a little bit more at times, especially at Sandy Dragons, because of the players around him. I mean, you've got some all-stars there, some big names that we've mentioned. I would like to see him take the game on a little bit more. And the mid to long-range kicking, that was a bit iffy. His set-up play was really good, but when he was going long inside 50, that could be a problem. But Carlton have had a lot of them players, let's be honest. So consistency, obviously. Now, I mean, I hate saying the C word in draftees because, obviously, the kids. So this is one here. But definitely when you watched Cooper, the consistency was the defense. His offensive craft could be higgledy-piggledy. And that's no disrespect to Cooper. I think he would admit that himself. It felt few and far between. But then again, he didn't really have the options. So let's look at 2024. Now, before we get into his VFL stats, I do want to talk about he did play a game very recently. So he did play, he did go down to Sandy as one of the overages. And what was really interesting in this game was he really did showcase his skill set, really did showcase what he was about. And this was a couple of months ago. It was the round 3 game versus the Eastern Ranges, but he really did showcase playing with some young guys as well. Taj Houghton was there. Levi Ashcroft now is a senior figure. But he came in and he really took the mick, really, in this. 27 touches, 7 marks. His back and forth in the ground was insane. And this was a really good model to watch in the terms of that you really did see how much he's improved playing with this age bracket. It was really scary. So that is worth noting that if you're counting him as a draftee, which you probably should, who's played senior football, probably based on that performance, you're looking at like a mid-30s, early 40s pick. Maybe an early 30s based on what you're looking for in this year's draft coming up. So 30 to 40, let's say, is draft range. And that kind of makes sense. With the Camporelli's going to be taking up Carlton's 2nd and 3rd picks. It's a very interesting little avenue there. Like Carlton know they'll probably not have the slot there. So it makes sense to go early on this with a point of difference. Now, in his VFL games this year, very entertaining. We went to go and see them all. So that was a very entertaining little thing. So obviously we did talk on draft night about the Brisbane game that I saw because I was scouting someone else. And I happened to have notes on him because I was like, who's this kid? And also against Carlton. He's 17.1 touches, 3.6 marks, 5.1 tackles, 2 inside 50s, 2.1 rebound 50s. And just by the hairs on his chinny chin, he had a couple, 2.4 clearances, mainly made up of stoppage clearances. And one thing that really does showcase what Cooper does in the VFL is his auxiliary role. So he plays that defensive role. He definitely hides out the back of the stoppage. He's looking to stop that runner and the pressure that he builds, particularly when teams go out wide. He showcased that a lot in the Brisbane game of how they work and how they play, and how hard he works up the arcs to try and hurry them up and hurry the opposition to get that kick. Definitely improved that left peg of his, but also his right peg. There was a few nice little touches, particularly in the last couple of weeks. I don't know if that was an aim to showcase what you're doing in the seniors and trying to get an AFL spot, but definitely the short kicking with the right foot has improved. Definitely, though, with his raking foot of his left, that has really improved. And I really did look at this and see that there's a real project here. You could see what Nick Austin's doing. Do I think he'll play 2024? Probably not, but I do think this is about jumping the head and view this as a draft pick for next year. And it's definitely someone that goes into the VFL now and puts a little bit of pressure on someone like Jack Carroll to really indefinitely improve, because we're going to have a kid that is a couple of years younger than him, fresh in the system to put pressure. But they're two different types of players, but very similar in the terms of they spent their junior year playing outside and inside, and now it's looking for a long-term role, which I feel like Jack Carroll has never had. Now, he roams contest to contest with the notes that we found in the VFL. He definitely works hard up and down the ground and good outside, and particularly out the back of the stoppage, but definitely creating that option as well. If he hasn't got the ball, he's willing to do it, but he's not scared to go and help his teammate wrestle the guy to the ground. His defense and his 1%ers and his 2nd and 3rd efforts really, really stand out. So that really suits the Vossi philosophy, as it were. And like we said, the short kicking and his range has definitely improved. Some of them entries with Tyler Sellers and players like that at North. Remember, North aren't exactly a grouse VFL system in the terms of littered with stars. He really did stand out there with some of the deep entries. And like we say, the left-footed attack is really good. He opens that side up, but he's not scared like he was in the juniors to avoid that right-hand side, and that did show. Improvements, I'd like to see him be a bit more attacking. I think when you're young, you've got to make sure that you've got that two-way in the aesthetic of your ability to hit inside 50 and create goal assists and stuff. I'm not too bothered if it's a role player, but I do think that with he's got a little bit of a 0 to 20 meter burst on him. Very similar to, I wouldn't say Paddy Dow, but he's got that kind of burst from stoppage. I wouldn't say he's lightning quick, but I wouldn't say he's slow. So he is a bit of a POD in the terms of he can break a line. Decision-making when going goal side, definitely there's some snatch kicks there. That's something that will be ironed out when he's playing for an elite system and learning our system, because that's something that North probably you get away with. At the Blues, they're trying to be a little bit more methodical on that. And he's definitely learning to use his weapons. You can see he's got a great understanding. He's a big, big unit. So he's a big boy. He's a big boy, his old Coops. So he's no slouch, do you know what I mean? He's that nice little 184, 85 size as well, which is always, I think, one of them things that you do look for in a young kid. But 184, do you know what I mean? He's built as well. He's quite solid. So it's learning your body. Learning your body is definitely something for him to do. But so far, a good row of fitness. So the summary here, we've got mode of Lockie Foggy. I know people are trying to go crazy with this and going, oh, he could be Josh Dunkley or he could be fucking Gary Ablett Jr. That's why you come to me. I'm not what I'll hype them up, but I'll be honest. So I think Lockie Foggett is probably the mold to look at. A guy that started as a midfielder as a junior, who has real good skill sets in being toughness. It's interesting at the VFL, he rested down back, but he also rested down forward. So this could be an area that Carlton look at. Now, I want you to look at the Elaz or Fantasia role, which he starts forward, but he ends up very out the back of the stoppage. And they use his little... He's a little conduit in the midfield when we are getting a bit stagnated. That could be definitely a role that we've discussed quite a bit in the VFL doesn't exist. So is that an area there? Because I'd say for Fantasia to be playing that role, it has been imperative because Durden played it when Fantasia didn't play, which would then indicate to me that that is an official role with this football club. But best early doors, pressure magnet, tackler, elite running. So there's somewhere to start on the midfield and maybe then look at resting him a quarter combined in the VFL, either forward or back, to try and look at some avenues where you could maybe expose some potential in the event of injuries. His two-way running suits the mode of all signings under Austin and Agresta. This seems to be a real key standout. So that's something for case notes for a bit later. VFL, like we say, he's rested all over, has incredible physicality, and he's definitely more a physical version of Jack Carroll. Definitely has more aerobic capacity as well. If you remember when we did the draft profile, Jack Carroll, the big issue with him was he had outside numbers for an inside midfielder. So it was kind of like, what are you? This guy here has got a real pigeonhole here of what he is. He can play on the outside. He's got real strong physicality numbers, what we would class as a balanced midfielder, I believe. But he definitely mixes it up. So is he going to play in 2024? Probably not, right? Barring injuries, touch wood, touch that wood now if you're watching this video. But I do think it's a real good little way of getting ahead of the 2024 draft, knowing that 2 of the picks are the Camparellis, which means then you can target the 2 picks that Agresta says we're going to say as we slide in front and then try and look at what happens with the Lucas pick. So it's going to be very interesting, this. I would say that this says to me that after the Camparellis, it's going to be 2 targeted picks, maybe a third tall in the draft, or maybe definitely a key position player will be in that. And that would make sense for Carlton to go ahead of the Camparellis because there is a couple of tasty morsels. So that could be interesting. That's Cooper Lord then. We wish him all the best. I'm looking forward to somehow finding a way of adding Pommy to his name because we do like to look after these kids and give them a support. But I think I speak for all of us. Good luck, Cooper. Go smash it dead, mate. And I can't wait to talk about you in the VFL wrap, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So go well, mate. That's Cooper Lord. Get around him. Go Blues.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.